Neither the initial release nor the 2016 follow-up ever really lived up to our expectations.
7% of those games that launched on Steam actually made enough money that the studio would survive.
I think that there are far too many games flooding virtually every gaming platform imaginable.
The industry was in a bit of a crazy place when we started development. Like we were getting told from friends and colleagues that the indie apocalypse was nigh, and that sales were plummeting, and it was harder and harder to kind of make a name for yourself.
And we've already done stories like this in the past about Steam being flooded with more and more titles as the years go on. Well, guys, it's not slowing down.
So here is the amount of games released in 2016 on Steam, 4,200.
And about 82% of those didn't even make minimum wage.
Tryhard Interactive is a community-driven development studio. We're an indie studio, we make games, and we were formed in 2017 when we were a bunch of students straight out of uni. And I'd never actually met any of the guys I'd set the studio with before. A guy in uni came up to me and asked if I wanted to set up a studio with him, and now he's my business partner 3 years later. Yeah. It's the worst decision of my life.
We knew that Steam was becoming more and more saturated, especially on the kind of the AAA side. And then from an indie side, it was because the market was getting so oversaturated, it was really hard to stand out. Really hard to stand out without a solid community base.
Our sort of answer came was building a brand that people trust, and that doesn't mean necessarily a brand orientated around games.
We envisioned it a lot like Kind of Funny and those kind of guys, where they were creating content around stuff that they loved, and it just happened to have built a community that were also passionate with not just the games that we make or the products that we make, but also us as individuals and us, the team dynamic.
You gotta think about it. I've put out a song a week for like 2 years because I had to blow up. Before I got a SoundCloud, I put out 11 projects, and I stopped doing that because I had made a 12th one. Instead of just putting it out like I did with all the other 11 ones, I need to blow up first before I just put out another project on deaf ears. So that's when I came up with the approach of a song a week on SoundCloud.
So we set out making vlogs and making content.
There's this process I like to call procedurally generated fame, and it can be just like that, a load of luck. We see this with like, you know, meme sort of games like the Untitled Goose Game, but for every Untitled Goose Game there's thousands of really cool indie games that just don't get noticed. Our sort of solution became, let's build a brand that encompasses many different elements to it that people will know us from, and then we can drive that traffic back to sort of our products and our games.
What eventually transcribes is that like making a game is really hard.
Making games is hard.
Making games is ridiculously hard.
It's fucking hard.
I was 21, 2021, now 23. Like, a lot changes in that time. We're not students anymore. That kind of the mixing that work and kind of friendship relationship is always a task. But we're doing all right.
The podcast is the Games Unite podcast. Basically, we like talking, you know, we love talking to each other about the industry. We talk a lot of rubbish as well. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sorry. I had to walk in at some point. So today we have Tanner and... We were just kind of coming out of the honeymoon phase of working out how we worked as a team, finalising what the product would look like. And then I walked in one day and we didn't have a ceiling.
I'm one of these, like, I laugh in the face of dread. To me, the whole situation was funny, but it really wasn't as funny as it was. So we basically had no consensus of where the team was to gather. We basically just came to a halt. We set up an office in Starbucks Piccadilly. So we worked in Starbucks Piccadilly for 4 months.
We'd never worked remotely as a team before. I found it really hard because running a team, it was kind of nice to have everyone in the same room and everyone on the same page. But then we had none of that. So what followed was like 4 months of a mental struggle for a lot of us of where is this game going? We didn't know really how to track where everyone was in development and how far along the product was going to be. But then we found our place, which is our new place. What followed was the ceiling came through again, but we were still in the same place, so it's all right.
Development hell, where when everything goes wrong for no apparent reason. Always a fun time, especially when I've got Kieran and breathe down my neck about it. You need so many disciplines for so many areas to actually even make a competent game, never mind an amazing one. Audio engineers, artists, graphic designers, gameplay designers. There are so many individuals and so many different crafts that I think it's almost a miracle that games actually get finished. Like even Red Dead isn't perfect, despite what Simran says. Yeah.
You know, you've got things like bugs, breaking things. These are all things that are going to happen. That is game development. AAA games launch with bugs all the time. The hardest thing for us has been building the community and the business side of it. The things that they don't teach you, the things that nobody talks about that are extremely important. Things like setting up localization and how long that takes and how expensive that can be. Setting up Steam pages, getting stuff submitted to lock check. Dev kits. How do you build a community when you don't have the money behind to afford mass marketing teams, get people to listen to you? So you've got to stand out, but how do you stand out? And it is a roll of the die. You know, we did get lucky now, we've got a quite decent community behind us, especially in Discord, but again, that came from procedurally generated, you know. It was one post that did it for me.
Gamers Unite is like the embodiment of our community. It's the place where everyone can come, no matter if you're a gamer or a developer, and connect over the things that we love, which are games at the end of the day. What we wanted to do with Gamers Unite is have that become a hub in Manchester for gamers, developers, journalists to come and have a conversation and actually talk about what actually goes into a game's development before it's even released. Simran started Gamers Unite a year or two before I came on board. What it's slowly become is kind of the other half of the business.
We were at a venue where I couldn't do a lot with the event. I wanted to change the whole structure of it, and Kieran came on as a brand manager to work alongside me as business partners for the event, and it's been a huge, amazing journey. It's like watching the baby go from its first steps, start getting really good grades at school, and then go on its way to university. We did a big rebrand at launch event, which has been my favourite event to date. And following that, we had the 2019 year where it's sort of solidified what it is now. This is what the new Gamers Unite is.
We just finished the game's development. We're coming up to release. It kind of signifies like a bit of a shift in the team's dynamic in what the company are trying to achieve this year.
It's scary, you know, it's been 3 years, but it's there now. Big moment. Not just for obviously the game, what we look forward to doing with, but beyond that, you know, the events, the podcast, there's a lot we want to do. And now that we're sort of coming towards the end, there's a lot more that we've got planned for the brand and what we want to do as a team and as a studio moving forward.
This is where our 5 and 10 year plan come into place. Just kind of as the game's launch comes up soon. Yeah, I think that's it really.